We've got today a blast from the past. It's a webcast, the audio of the webcast that we did some years ago. So, without any further ado, let me jump right into and let you hear this treat that we have from the past. Hi, this is Sean David Jackson, affectionately known as the Date Doctor. Well, at least to those of you that have heard my interviews on radio stations across North America. I'd like to personally thank you for listening to today's first in a series of audio shows that I'm beginning to do. And in these shows, I'll be sharing some perspective on a number of different topics in somewhat of an informal conversational style. Yes, I'll talk about dating, as I do in most of the radio interviews that I've done on the various shows that I've been on. But I'll also talk about other things too, such as non-romantic type relationships, good ones and bad ones. Yeah, we'll talk about the messy mess-up relationships as well. I may talk about people and society and various other things, but definitely we will share perspective, insights on relationships and dating. Just before we get started, let's give you a little bit of information about myself for those of you that don't know me, and for those of you that have heard my interviews on the radio stations around the country. Just please bear with us and we'll get into the main content of the program in just a bit. I've written a dating survival guide book, and that teaches specific methods on surviving the dating scene. And let's see, let me give you a short bio on myself. I won't belabor this too long, but I was born and raised in Northern California and received a bachelor's degree in computer science from the University of California at Berkeley. Received my master's degree in telecommunications management from Golden Gate University in San Francisco. I've been teaching Christian living to adults and youth since the early 80s at least, and I've launched websites for various functions and purposes. One of the things I've done using technology in my educational background is to use the internet to counsel and consult people all around the globe and or encourage them on just basic Christian living principles, and also counseled and encouraged and mentored people live and in person as well. Let me do one more thing. Let me pull out a publication here. It's a public relations type media magazine, and I'll read you a little bit of what my PR folks have put on the cover of this particular magazine to give you a little bit more about myself. Let's see, I've been heard on radio stations, hundreds of radio stations that I've been heard on across North America, from Hawaii to New York to Montreal. Actually, I was on Montreal's #1 show. And let's see, as I mentioned, I wrote a dating survival guide, and I've basically, in my personal experiences, I've pretty much seen it all, as you might say. I actually watched a young woman die before my very eyes from the result of a bad relationship, bad dating mistakes that she made, and I won't get into that too much of that in this program, maybe in a future program. One couple that my wife and I actually brought into our home and was counseling and encouraging the young man and this young married couple that I was trying to get him on the right track. Apparently didn't want to, take on and do his responsibility as a new husband. And long story short, he couldn't stay away from a life of crime, and he ended up on America's Most Wanted. And I don't mean as a celebrity guest. Basically, he was on the run from the law for heinous acts. But in any case, that's a bit about me, and let's get started into this very first program. Okay, so let's get into the content of the program. First thing I wanted to do is start off about discussing what is dating, because I found that different people have different concepts about what that word means, and some people actually view that word as a negative. I'll tell you personally, I don't view the word dating as a negative in and of itself. It just depends on what kind of dating you're talking about. So here, let me turn to my dating survival guide, and I'll read you a bit from there, and this will help you understand where I'm coming from and how the context in which I'm using the word dating. Okay, here we go. Date. The word date. When two people of the opposite gender, male and female, who are not related, not of the same family, mutually agree to attend some event together or visit some particular location together on a social basis, often as the result of the attraction of at least one of the persons to the other. Okay, just continuing on here. The word date can also be used to refer to either of the persons who attends the event. The date as described above. So what I mean here is the date can be the act of going to social events with somebody, and you say, I'm dating this person, or you can say this person is my date. And I hope that's not too confusing. Dating can simply be defined as the occurrence of or participation in one or more dates. So a person can be your date. You can be dating because you're going out socially because of some interest in another person, or the actual single event of going, whether it's going out to dinner, bowling, whatever, that event can be called a date. Normally, what would not be considered a date is when you have appointments, like to see your dentist. I mean, that is a scheduled event, but it's not for some interest beyond getting your teeth fixed that you have. So going to see your dentist is not necessarily a date. So hopefully that's given you a context. And even within the context of dating, going out because you're interested in some people have various motives for dating. Let me read a little bit of the preface of my book, and you'll see what I'm talking about when I say people have sometimes good reasons and bad reasons, or at least this is what I teach people. People have various reasons for dating, some good, some bad. In the preface, I talk about an event before I actually went to publish my book. I was sitting down at dinner or in a restaurant with a group of people, relatives, in Berkeley, California, and we were overlooking the San Francisco Bay. Beautiful scene. And my cousin, he was quite surprised that I had written a book about dating. With amazement in his eyes and sarcasm in his voice, he questioned whether I had enough quote-unquote experience at dating to write a book. It seems to me that underlying my cousin's question is a false belief that a man must live the life of a playboy in order to gain the wisdom necessary to advise others on appropriate dating guidelines. And I'll be honest with you right here now. My main thrust of what I do in counseling people and writing the book that I wrote, the Dating Survival Guide book I wrote, and in getting on radio stations is not to help playboys, playgirls, get their sex on and have a night of frolicking with various men and women. What I'm geared toward is basically helping people develop righteous relationships. Okay, not people, as people say, trying to get their freak on. I'm not helping people get their freak on in the freaky singles world that plagues our society today. So hopefully that doesn't offend anybody, me using that term, but hopefully you understand what I'm getting at. Here, I want to read something to you and then I'll tell you what it is after I read it, and hopefully you'll find this interesting. Alrighty. Okay, I'm reading here, and just listen close and then I'll explain why I'm reading this. Your lips, my dear, are made of honey. Yes, honey and cream are under your tongue, and the scent of your garments is like the scent of the mountains and cedars of Lebanon. My darling bride is like a private garden, a spring that no one else can have, a fountain of my own. You are like a lovely orchard bearing precious fruit, with the rarest of perfumes, nard and saffron, calamus and cinnamon, and perfume from every other incense tree, as well as myrrh and aloes, and every other lovely spice. You are a garden fountain, a well of living water, refreshing as the streams from the Lebanon mountains. Okay, you say, well, what is that all about? I just read you a passage of scripture is what I did, and actually it's in the fourth chapter of the Song of Solomon. The reason I read that is some people are really confused, and hopefully none of you are, and they think that the devil made romance and love. But I'm here to tell you, we see in that inspired passage I just read to you that God made romance, and he made it to be a pleasure and an enjoyment for righteous people. The key is how you do romance, doing it within the guidelines of what's right. Okay, so don't be think it's unnatural that people have a desire for romance, or romantic desires are unnatural. It's all about how you do it. It's just like a friend of mine once said that he said that in so many words that fire is good, and we have these beautiful fireplaces, and I'm here in Northern California. This time of year, it is not where I am at. There's really no reason to burn a fireplace because it's so sunny and warm here. But in colder parts of the country, when it gets cold, you want that fire burning hot in the fireplace. But you want it in the fireplace. If someone was to just come out in the middle of the living room on the carpet and start a fireplace right there and just say, oh, isn't fire good? I'm going to just start a fire in the middle of the floor. You would think they had lost their mind because it would destroy the house. Same thing with romance. And I'll say even sex. It is good in its proper place. And romance and sex is not necessarily the same word, but I'm just trying to show you all things in their proper place. All good things in their proper place are good. Good thing in the improper place is not good. Okay, so here's what I'm moving right along. Here's what I want to do in the next segment of this first and hopefully a series of shows. I want to talk about what people say. Okay, and I found this survey online, and I don't know that this is necessarily scientific, and hopefully they got a large enough sample of people answering these questions to give a good enough sample of answers. But I'm going to read some of the questions from this survey and how people answered this survey, and maybe talk about it as I go along. And it's pretty interesting and maybe humorous in some aspects. The first, well, not the first question on the survey, but the first question I'll read is this. For me, dating is mainly about, and they give people looks like 10 options to pick what dating is mainly about to them. Okay, the first choice that people could pick in the survey, what dating is about to them, is love. Okay, it looks like about 1/5 of the respondents said that dating is mainly about love to them. Okay, all right, that's good for the 1/5 that said it's about love. Um, the second option people had is that dating is mainly about marriage. I guess that's people that are saying that dating is a way that they're going to lead into finding the right person for them to marry. And there's about 1/5 of the respondents said that marriage is what dating is mainly about. Okay, it's not too bad an answer there. And then the next answer, people said dating is mainly about friendship. Well, it looks like less than 10% of the people said that dating is mainly about friendship. Um, Partnerships was the next option, and looks like maybe about 1/20th, somewhere around, looks like 6% of the people said that dating is about partnership, and I'm not quite sure what they meant by that. And then the next answer, dating is mainly about sex. Well, I guess we may have to pray for those folks, because I do not advocate people running around dating so they can have sex. And there's various reasons as we move on into this series. Hopefully I'll get a chance to break that down, the multiple reasons why that's not a good reason for dating. And then another reason here, looks like 3% said that dating is mainly about company. So some people are dating because they just want some company. So I guess maybe because they're lonely. And then 3% said that dating is mainly about a social life. And then 12% said dating is mainly about romance. And then 3% said dating is mainly about conversation. So it looks like just a small percentage of people are going on dates because they just want somebody to talk to. And then the last option was dating is mainly about sharing. You have 6% saying that it's about sharing. Not sure quite what that meant, what they're sharing. Let me say this. You see from this survey then that there are different reasons why people date, and some aren't necessarily reasons for dating that I'll say are inherently evil or immoral. At least one of these I'm looking at is not a good reason. It's a bad reason for dating. It's immoral. But the key thing is if you're going to be on the dating scene, you want to find out quickly, diplomatically, smoothly, what the other person's reasons for dating are. Not necessarily why they're dating you. You don't want them, force them to make a decision about whether, they're interested in a long-term relationship with you the first time you go out with somebody. But what you can do is find out generally what the other person's purpose in dating is. And here's one way to do that. One way to do that is, for example, if someone asked you out, or maybe you asked someone out, and hopefully you're having a dialogue and conversation with them before you actually go out, and you can just nonchalantly just ask them, hey, you believe in dating is still relevant in our society today, and hopefully they'll say yes, and you can say, well, what's your particular personal reasons for dating in general? And if they give you one of these answers that they believe dating is mainly about having sex, then I suggest you let that one go. Don't pursue that relationship. If the person says one of these other reasons, I kind of like number 2. If they say, well, I think it's mainly personally for me about finding that right person, that special person that hopefully will lead to marriage, then that's the answer I like. Now if you're dating and you're on the side where you're not looking to get married, and you're just dating because you're bored and you want somebody to have conversation with, Well, if that other person is looking to get married, you really need to be honest with them about where you're at. I did have a circumstance once myself years ago where the person that I had developed what I thought was a serious relationship with, and we were, what you call going steady, um, exclusively dating one another and not dating anybody else but each other. Um, and eventually it came about as I'm getting more and more serious about this person that she tells me that really she's not looking to get married uh, anytime soon, maybe 10 years in the future. She's saying she might want to get married, and that totally was not my time horizon. I wasn't about waiting around 10 years to figure out if she's going to marry me and invest 10 years of my life. No way. So I would say it's good for you to find out, generally what the person's reason for dating in general is. Don't force them, try to force them to make a commitment about you right off the bat, whether you're, the one that they want to spend the rest of their life with, but you want to know what their intentions are, and you want to share what your intentions are too. All right. Let's see if I can get in maybe one or two more of these survey questions before we run out of time here. Okay, let's see. Let's take one of the questions off the top. Okay, oh, here's a good one. All right, the question is this. Uh, Basically, it's what's the most important features that each of these people in the survey felt what's the most important feature is, or features of someone that they'd be interested in. Okay, the first answer was looks. And looks like about 1/10 of the folks said that looks was the most important feature. Okay. And then the second one, personality. Wow, almost a third of the folks said personality was the most important feature. That looks sounds good on the surface. I don't know if I believe that, because we got a lot of folks I've seen in my experience in my days where if that person's looks are good or attractive, that people right away have what they call love at first sight, and they're head over heels before they even really fully explore the person's personality. Okay, moving on. 5% said the physique. I guess where these ladies are, these 5% are looking at if the man is his physical build is attractive to him, and I guess the guys are in this answering this thing that the physique is most important, or looking at whether the woman's body looks, her shape, that's the most important thing. Okay, the next answer is sense of humor. There's, oh wow, 14% saying that sense of humor is most important. Looks like 1/10 of the respondents said the eyes are most important, and nobody's 0% said the popularity is most important. I wonder if I really believe that, because you see a lot of times people chasing after popular people that maybe their personality isn't the greatest, and they don't even have to be rich. You see these people chasing after famous folks who sometimes may have a horrible character. So I don't know. Well, sometimes what people say and what they do don't match up. So maybe that's the case, that everybody's saying, oh, popularity isn't the most important, but we got a lot of people that it is a high priority in what they do. Okay, and the next one, 12% said the smile is the most important feature. Okay, and then there were some that said 7% said the hair is the most important. 7% said education is the most important. And then only 3% said career. Now, I was sharing this particular question with my daughters, and my oldest daughter, she was wondering why one of the answers that people could pick from wasn't money. And she raised a really good point, because I tell you, a lot of people are attracted to money. We see people marrying people for money. Um, so I think that would have probably been a good addition to this survey, is to add money to this list and see how many people said that money was the most important thing, because we know basically that's what we see, a lot of people marrying and get into relationships over money. And let's see, let me jump down here and read one of the other latter questions, and I think you'll be able to see why, hopefully. It says, what is the first thing you notice about your date? And looks was the first possible answer. 38% said looks was the first thing that they noticed. Well, that doesn't jive with the folks how they answered that earlier question, where they said that looks, only 1/10 of the people said looks was the most important feature. But here, 38% are saying it's the first thing they notice. You see the disconnect there? At least it seems like a disconnect to me. Oh, and then you got 1/10 of the people saying that the dress was the first thing they noticed. So you have like almost 50% that they're looking how you look and how you're dressed, and that's the first thing that they're looking at. Whereas in the early question, people are trying to play it off, and the way they're picking, they're trying to say, oh, personality is the most important thing, because that's the one that got the highest answers on the first question. Well, on the first thing you notice about your date, personality over there only got 17%. Okay, and the first thing you notice, wealth, didn't get any takers there, and only a couple percent said style was the first thing that they noticed, and manners, nobody selected that. The smile is the first thing people notice. About 1/10 said that's the first thing they noticed. The eyes, almost 1/5 of the respondents said that's what the first thing they notice, and only several percent said the humor is the first thing they notice, and generosity, nobody said that was the first thing they noticed. Okay, well we'll read some more of this maybe in the next show, but wow, I guess you can see that there are a wide variety of what people are looking for, what they're interested in. And so I'll say this, when you get out there in the dating scene, in the dating pool, if you don't have your strategy together, and I don't mean that you're going to deceive people, but you don't have your wits and your tools and your methods of how you're going to go about it, I mean, you're just destined to drown in the dating pool. So basically, I advocate that you really sit down and think about why you're dating. And of course, having written the Dating Survival Guide, I advocate that you read that book and look at the strategies I lay down there, and continue listening to this program, and hopefully I will share something that will be of use to you as well. So without any further ado, I think we'll call that a wrap for our first show. This is Sean David Jackson, known as the Dating Doctor, signing off for the first show. Thank you so much.